Hello and welcome back to the Combo Classroom. Decided we had a little time for another little live video today. I didn't schedule in advance, but had about an hour before other filming antics. And although it's quite muddy in the classroom, it's not raining today, so got a little time to film out here with my clocks and apparently all of my mud. Some of the clocks have been taking a little bit of a beating due to the rain and other events, but I've figured maybe I can reformat some of these clocks because a lot of things work clock like. So, like this one that's all dead now. Well, I removed all of the deadness, and now I could use this for anything circular. And I even still have the hands, so I could put the gears back on if I needed. Now, what things go circularly? You got some things even are circular with 12s work well. Like in music, there's this thing called the circle of fifths. In geometry, ooh, there's a squirrel back there. In geometry, you could use this to represent coordinates. This could be over where 3 o'clock is kind of like where your number one could be on a unit circle. Where 9 o'clock is like your -1. And depending on what type of unit circle you're graphing, where, if you're using some complex numbers, you could say your noon is like your I, and your 6 o'clock is like your -I. And what about these other ones? Well, the other spots on that clock will come up in an episode very soon. To the commenter who asked how old I am 29 right now. Um, and what else comes in circles in any case? A lot of cool things. Modular arithmetic things, of course. So maybe we'll have to make some clocks that have different amounts of hours on them and zeros on top instead of dumb old 12s. I mean, not dumb 12s. 12 is a great number, it just shouldn't be on top of the clock. Zero should signify that we've restarted the 12. If you think about it, there's 24 hours in a day, and a 12-hour clock runs from 1 to 12. Like if you converted it into a decimal from the amount of minutes, it'd be like 12 point repeating nines. So basically runs up to 13. And then when we hit 13, it calls it 1 again. Why does a 12-hour type clock like this? I'll pick the 1 to almost 13 range out of the day instead of the 0 to almost 12 range out of the day for what numbers to pick. Um, and yeah, 0 to 23 is used in some like official ways of timekeeping. In fact, there are some cool other ways zooming out about calendars. And I'm thinking that New Year's, when all of the calendars that people are used to are like, oh, big deal, we're going to a new year. Well, I was thinking that might be a good time to drop an episode I've been thinking about for a while about weird calendars and why the calendar we have isn't very good and doesn't even have the right amount of months it should. And I like 12, trust me. 12 months, I like 12s. Clocks should keep 12 types of thing on them, maybe. That's useful. But months, turns out there's a better amount of months. So we'll be going into that very soon. Now, one thing I wanted to share today in our little video was some. Normally, I share some math books that I've been enjoying in a very delighted, happy, excited sense. But sometimes I find some that are kind of funny, maybe unintentionally. And I don't mean to roast any authors whose books I pull out when I'm quoting the unintentionally funny ones. But some books, math related, and even more so, books about magic tricks that try and work in math but aren't necessarily written by a mathematician can be pretty funny. So I already showed a book before. I don't have it with me right now. But to anyone who saw an earlier stream, I got a pretty absurd number dictionary. I'll probably make a short video about that anyway soon because I thought it was a pretty ridiculous concept for a book. So we'll look at the number dictionary again soon. But the ones I have here were just a few more I pulled from my shelf when after getting the number dictionary. I thought, like, what other kind of absurd things have I seen in math books recently? Like one that I don't have here also is there's this number theory book I was reading that was it's like a playful, nice, good number theory book, but the author goes along and decides that he's going to call one of the primes. And way back in the day, some mathematicians did consider one a prime number because you could have chosen to define prime as two or less factors and said it includes one. Um, but it's a lot better mathematically to define one as not a prime, so that for one example things have unique prime factorizations, so that like 30 is just 2 times 3 times 5 and not 2 times 3 times 5 times 1 or 2 times 3 times 5 times 1. So one being in the mix makes it not as unique, the factorizations that you can apply to numbers. So, like in number theory, which the book is about and which it uses proofs in, is one of the main fields where modern people have decided, like, yeah, one is definitely not going to be counted as one of the primes, but especially when we're talking about like theorems like the fundamental theorem of arithmetic. That's one of the reasons why we choose that. And that author, it's a good book, but he just in the midst of trying to prove things that doesn't really work when one's a prime keep sticking with the one's a prime thing. One of the first things in the book is like, if you were asked to make a list of all the primes, you'd definitely be able to start one, two, three. And it's like, wait, what? No, no, no. I would not start like that. Um, now, another one here that I thought was kind of funny. Now, this isn't the worst because honestly, the next one I'm going to bring out had a lot more like kind of bad math and stuff in it. But this one's just kind of funny. I haven't looked at it too much yet, but I got a bunch of more random used books, and one of them I was like, "This sounds fun." Shortcut math about quick mental math tricks and shortcuts. I might know them all already. Maybe it'll refresh my brain, and maybe I'll learn a few new ones. And some of them at the beginning, when you're looking at what they're talking about, what they're trying to teach in terms of a quick mental multiplication trick, makes sense. Like here's like rounding off numbers for addition. That sounds useful. Adding a regular series of numbers. That sounds useful. Multiplying things by 10 or 100 in our society, that's useful. Um, and then when I flipped toward the end to see what other concepts it was hitting, some of them are really, really random to include that they're easy to make a mental math trick for, but it doesn't sound like something you would always need to do that much. There's to multiply or divide by 66 and 2/3. Like I know that's 2/3 of 100. So that lets them come up with an easy mental magic trick. But it's when are you going to need to do that? When are you going to need to multiply something by 66 and 2/3 that often? Maybe occasionally when dealing with percentages. But good thing they also told us how to multiply or divide by 16 and 2/3, as well as you need to know how to do it with 12 and a half. So they have some really random things they're trying to teach. I don't think many viewers of this book are going to read how to multiply or divide something by 12 and a half and have that stick in their brain enough, be used often enough to stay in the memory. Um, so I thought that was kind of funny how obscure some of those were. But moving to another one now, I haven't read this book in a while, and it's not even the worst one I've encountered of this trait, but um, a lot of magic books can try and fill a lot of pages of like it's kind of hard to fill that many pages with tricks. Like I've invented some magic tricks before, but I wouldn't be able to fill a book with my tricks. And so to fill a whole book with them, you'll notice some people try and come up with some kind of iffy tricks to throw in that might not be that impressive. And I need to go back through this a little more to determine what are actually the funniest, craziest ones out of it. But one or two I thought was pretty funny right here, right away, is where's this one about keys? So this isn't math, but this is just like, what is up with this trick he's recommending? It's first of all, it's called key rect. Um, okay, key rect. So it says, I just got to read this whole one to you guys. It says, this is another version of the lock and key trick that's ideal when performing at a friend's home. Borrow his house key and drop it into an envelope that you've secretly marked. Then, with his consent, have him step outside the house. Close the door and lock him out. Already, it's kind of funny that it says that you need consent to have the friend step out of the house. It didn't say with his consent after the part about close the door and lock him out. It sounds almost like they're like, okay, tell your friend to agree to step outside and then just lock him out. Then it says, borrow 5 or 6 more keys and have each sealed in an envelope. So where you like lock your friend out of the house and then you find 5 or 6 more keys in his house and put them all in envelopes. Where are you going to even find 5 or 6 more keys if your friend's locked outside? And then you basically, I'll skim through this. Basically, you gather the envelopes, including one you've secretly marked, so you can figure out which one's the correct one. You rip it, remove the key, and then it says you have to have someone slip the key under the door to the host who's on the other side. He tries the key in the lock and opens it. It's an amusing presentation and one that will be remembered. And they really don't clarify what's going on with this trick, but it sounds like to me that you get your friend's consent to go outside and then you lock him out, find 5 or 6 keys, and you basically just knew which one was the original key, and they slip it back under the door, and presto. Now, let's go to one in here that's math based, which there's a bunch of math ones in here I'm going to have to go through later. But here's one that's math based where they say your spectator picks a 3-digit number at random. Now, when I first read that, I'm like, okay, cool. Is this going to be one of the tricks? I know there's a lot of cool tricks you can do with 3 digits. The trick is that there's this really convoluted part where you have a book of matches and you rip them out and stuff. But throughout all of this, they just lead to you ask your spectator to jot down a 3-digit number, and that all the digits have to be 1 through 9 and different. And then you have him do some like flipping it and subtracting, which could get us a cool trick. But then we have them take out the amount of matches from the smallest digit in the result, and then we get to see the matchbook. So they basically tell us the smallest digit. And then it says that you can get, if the smallest digit was a 4, you'd be able to guess that the next smallest digit is a 5. Now, that's not even true in the example. They said that after the calculation, you get to 594. So it's not the next smallest digit. And they never talk about guessing the 3rd digit. They have this really elaborate trick where they do something with 3-digit numbers and they tell you one of them, basically, and you can guess one of the others. That is so far from the best trick you could do with 3-digit numbers. I would be so unimpressed if somebody had me do a 3-digit number trick. I had to tell them one of the digits and they only guessed one of the others and just ignored the other. Then here we have one that is some cool sleight of hand. You place 4 ordinary objects on the table. You write down the name of one on a slip of paper and set it aside. Your spectator chooses one of the objects and they say, although the choice is random, you've predicted which object would be chosen. But here's the method, they say. The method, they say, is you write, you put a glass a cup, a salt shaker, and a matchbook on the table. And you write that they'll pick the glass. Now, you tell the spectator to close their eyes and hold their right hand palm down over the four objects. While their eyes are closed, you arrange the four objects so that the glass is in the middle, right under their hand. And then it says, the swindle is this. Because the glass is the tallest object, his hand will touch the glass first. Who is going to be impressed by a trick where you say, shut your eyes, put your hand over a bunch of items on the table. You're allowed, I'm going to rearrange the items while your hands are shut. Lower your hands. Okay, you hit the tallest one. I predicted that you would hit the tallest one. That's the worst trick yet. That's not a trick. And then one more math one. This is going to be the last one from the book for now, because sometime I'll go through and actually find the ones that are like the ones that were making me crack up when I first read this book. But, and don't get me wrong, there's a couple good tricks in the book too. But yeah, there's also some duds. Now, one of these was, can I find this? I remember this other one. It's basically that they tell you you can stun people with your, no, I actually need to find this because the words they use are really funny to describe it. The funniest part of this isn't necessarily that the trick's bad, but that sometimes they describe it like the elaborate swindle, which will stun the audience, is this secret trick. And they like really overhype it is the funny part. Let me readjust this so we're not blasted by light as much. There's also the issue in the mud that the chairs sink. The chairs, like, as you sit in them, get lower and lower. So don't be surprised if I start sinking lower and lower as we go. So I need to find this last one that was about divisibility. Because I remember it was one of the ones they were like way overhyping. So they're like, here's one more test that'll make you look like a mathematical wizard, they say. It's based on a little known secret. This is like, if you start off your paragraph that you're like, this is a little known mathematical secret that will make you look like a mathematical wizard, you're kind of expecting it to be a cool trick. So it says you have them jot down a random number like, and they write down like a 20-digit example. You glance at it, shake your head and say, it isn't divisible by 4, but I can change it so it is. Then you add 2 more digits, a 2 and an 8, to the right end of the number. When the spectator divides this number by 4, he discovers that it is indeed evenly divisible by 4. The fact that it takes a spectator a long time to verify your claim makes your mathematical ability that much more amazing. So, and then at the end they say, do not repeat the trick. Done once, it is enormously impressive, and you will be credited with tremendous ability at figuring long division in your head. That's not long division to say that something's divisible by 4, but not know what the answer is when you divide it by 4. And to anyone who doesn't know that part of the trick, kind of like how if the last digit of a number is even, if the last 2 digits of a number are divisible by 4, so is the whole number, because they reset every 100 multiples of 4. So if your last 2 digits of your number are multiple of 4, so is the whole number. So that's a fun fact, but it's not going to baffle and stun people that when you add a 2-digit multiple of 4 at the end of something, it turns into a multiple of 4. They also could have picked like a multiple of 8 or something that would have been at least less likely. Like, even if your spectator had no idea how you did it, there's like a 1 in 4 chance you were accidentally right. It's not that You could have even just been guessing, and a quarter of the people it would have been divisible by 4. So sorry to the author of that. If I keep doing this type of stream, I'm probably going to make some enemies in the publishing world. I love all you authors. I'm sure people will have critical things to say about books I publish someday, but I had to point out those were kind of funny. So stay tuned for some more weird books because I have bought a lot of used math books over the years. Some of them are beautiful and elegant, and some of them are a little unintentionally funny. So, yeah, someone says maybe at a birthday party for kids. I just feel like if you're gonna do a math magic trick, there are actually good ones. You could use divisibility by 9 tricks. There are tons of awesome divisibility by 9 tricks that you can actually just have them scramble something and then smush something and then you know it's 9 at the end, instead of being like, either like, okay, I get to add a bunch of digits to your number. Now I know it's divisible by 3 or whatever, or be like, okay, you tell me a digit out of your number. All right, now I'm going to be able to tell you one of the other digits. There's way better tricks that could stun a kid than those, I feel like. I've done math magic tricks for fun at some events and stuff, where I've read minds and stuff. But yeah, maybe we'll someday try those on a very young child and see if they're impressed. Someone said a party trick is dividing something by 7 in the head and giving accurate decimals. Yeah, so sevens have this 6-digit thing after the decimal that repeats, and each of them is a different cyclical version of that. So if you remember the 6 digits order, then it's pretty easy to know what the string's going to be. And yeah, dividing by 7's an interesting one. Now, to figure out if something bigger is divisible by 7, it's not as easy. There are a lot of workaround divisibility tricks where you like add and subtract digits and stuff, or where you have to like double things and subtract and stuff, but they're not quite as simple as some of the other divisibility tricks. Some of the simpler ones are multiples of 4. If the last 2 digits are, it's a multiple of 4. Multiples of 8. If the last 3 digits are a multiple of 8, then so is the number. Multiples of 3, their digit sum is also 3even. And multiples of 6 have that 3even property and end in an even digit. Multiples of 9 have a digit sum of a multiple of 9 and a digital root of 9. 7's kind of the odd one out on there, in our base at least. If we were counting in base 6, which would be cool, then 7 would have the divisibility tricks that 11 currently has, because 11 has its tricks by being 1 higher than the base we count in. And 11 has divisibility tricks where you like alternatingly add and subtract digits, and then you see if it's a multiple of 11. And turns out that that's a trait that the number 1 higher than the base you count in will have, but also things that are factors of that. So there's interesting, if we switched bases a bunch, I need to plug in my computer before it crashes. If we switched bases, a bunch of numbers would either have the superpower that last digit determines whether it's a multiple, digit sum determines whether it's a multiple, or alternatingly adding and subtracting the digits determines if it's multiple. For example, 3even numbers would have one of those 3 traits in any base. Sorry for the plugging in interruption. You guys can listen to the sirens and stuff. One day the sirens will actually be for me, and we're going to hear them get closer and closer on the stream, and that'll be a wild one. Okay, this is not a long chord, so we're having to re-navigate a little bit. All right, and I might only be streaming for another 15 minutes, so if anyone has any questions or thoughts, drop them here. Luckily, the reason I'm only going to be streaming a little bit is I will be filming again some more cool stuff today, and that will include part of a main episode and probably some shorts to pop on this channel. And got a lot of fun ones coming out soon. A lot of good mathematical stuff to share. That's coming out in some main channel episodes that are managing to come out every 6 or 7 days. Although this week's will be a more lighthearted snack break, the one where I roasted all the spikes off a cactus fruit on the fire that broke one of those. And then we will have a fun mathematical one that will involve some algebra and some geometry in a fun combo. And I do plan on having more language episodes, like someone asked. I don't know as much automatically about language because I don't read quite as much about it. So when I want to make a language topic, I have to do a bit of prep and studying beforehand. But I do really enjoy it. It's a different mood because I talk about the English language in those episodes because it's the one I know. And the English language is pretty chaotic and absurd. And so when I make math episodes, I come across as like, oh, the world's so beautiful. Everything's so cool. Look at all these discoveries. When I make language episodes, I come across more like, what is wrong with this? Like ripping my hair out and stuff. So you'll get the exasperated Demotra on the language episodes, but it will be pretty comical. All of the dumb, chaotic things we'll find that the language does. Some examples of language episodes that will be coming out at some point in the future are pluralization. Which words do or don't have rhymes of which sorts? Words that you don't realize were originally established as something weird, like a brand name or a trademark or some weird historical thing, or used to mean something entirely different. So those are a few episodes that'll be interesting. They'll be language themed that will come out at some point. There's a lot of types of stuff that will come out on the channel because there'll be more science episodes as I get some cool like science experiments to show you guys and some cool animals and plants and stuff to interact with. And there will be also more, well, there haven't been any of these on the main channel yet, but there will be music theory lessons because I do know a lot about music theory too. And so definitely going to have some cool stuff related to the theory behind musical scales and chords and such. Oh, that was one of the comments. Someone said math and music. Yes, so there's a lot of episodes that will cover stuff like that. Now, before people who want like really deep math in music, that will probably take maybe a grade or two out to come because the first ones I want to do musically, I want to just do my version of teaching scales and chords and stuff like that. So to people who already know a bunch of music, some of those you may already know, but you'll still maybe like my interpretation of like the analogies I use to teach it or things like that. And so, yeah, I teach a lot of private music lessons still to afford making these videos. And so I've gotten a kind of interesting approach of how to teach some things that I want to share with you guys, musically, I mean. And so before we go too deep into all the super weird stuff musically that we could mathematically analyze, it will first be sort of like the circle of fifths you mentioned, that sort of what makes up scales and chords and notes in the 12-note chop that we've given the scale in Western music. And yes, that will not make it in the first one to that comment, but there's a lot to investigate in that over time. Also, at some point, maybe I'll just do like on live streams here on the bonus channel or something, more lengthy tutorials about music, because maybe I'll just teach you guys piano and guitar and how to make beats and how to rap and all that stuff for fun. Let's see. Thank you for the comments. And let's see what's going on here. I gotta be careful because this chair's wet, everything's wet. Now, one thing I want to investigate back here real quick is I left some vegetables out here to plant later in the wooden potter thing I have with soil in it back there. But then I read online that the weird stuff I wanted to plant to make weird sprouts, so that some of it is edible, some other ones aren't, like potatoes and onions and garlic and stuff, to see the weird sprouts we could grow back there. I read that you want to have them sprout a little bit first before you put them in the soil. That'll give them some ideal green action. This wasn't even on for some reason. There we go. But is it going? Yeah. So what I want to see is, it rained now, and I left the potatoes and onion and garlic out here. And so I don't know if that helps the sprouting process or not, to have them get rained on, whether that's going to help our cause of making them do cool things when we put them in the dirt, or whether it will not help them. So let's see what they look like if they're starting to sprout or anything. Now I need to leave that thing plugged in, so I'm gonna have to fetch them for you guys. Oh wow, we got a blender full of googly eyes. Oh no, yeah, there were googly eyes in the blender, and then rainwater fell in them, and now I don't know if they're gonna stick, but kind of cool to have a blender full of eyes. So here they are. Yeah, the rain didn't change them too much. Hopefully, I mean, texture-wise or anything. Hopefully these will be ready to start making some little sprouts soon, but if they don't change too soon, we'll just put them in the dirt. They're not doing any too crazy sprouting action yet. Starting to make a few little things. Yeah, the part that comes off the onion will actually be edible. Don't know about the potato. I don't think that one will be, but maybe we'll get something cool out of the potato. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to get any mold, or how water resilient they are. If they soaked up much of it, or if it bounced off. So those I think we'll plant in the next week or so anyway. But remember, some projects take a while to come to fruition, so it's not going to be exciting to watch them get planted necessarily, although I will show you guys what'll be exciting is whatever they do in a few months from now. And yeah, I would definitely not eat anything that came out of the potato without looking it up first, because I know that potato fruits are actually poisonous. And that is one of my goals. I don't know if they've bred it out of these to not fruit, but the potato is not the fruit of the plant. There's no seeds in this. This is down by the root, So potato in the wild, I don't know if this one will, but in the wild, when they grow stuff, it fruits, because that's how they spread seeds. And the fruit it makes is in the nightshade family. Now, in the nightshade family, it looks like a little tomato. And tomatoes, which are in the nightshade family, are edible, but it is actually less common that tomatoes and bell peppers, which are in the nightshade family, being edible is a little less common, because there's a lot of poisonous nightshade fruits. And that includes the potato fruit. So, of course, we're not going to have anyone eat them if they grow. Absolutely no taste tests on that. But I do kind of want to grow them. That'd be pretty cool to grow a poisonous potato fruit. So we'll see if that happens. Who knows? Now, one other thing that I set aside that I thought might grow back there. I don't know. I need to look up if the seeds themselves can just go like this that easily, how easy it is to do. But I got a passion fruit. So do you know those things that grow on vines? And they make these curly vines with cool little curls on the end, um, and cool flowers. And they make these strange fruits that are like these wrinkly shells of like purpley things. And then if you eat the inside, it's like a tropical fruit. And I'm going to try and plant the seeds out of one of those that I got and saved back in that, because that's a vine. And I was trying to think of what things can I plant that would actually fit in, like, this size, that aren't like, I can't plant like an apricot tree in there or something as much as I would like to, because it just best case scenario, I don't even know what that means. It grows and doesn't fit, or it doesn't grow. Um, so I need like a vine or something smaller, a little shrub. And so passion fruit is somewhat of a vine. What would be really cool is if I can get some vines growing out of the planter back there, in and around the clocks. Speaking of which, we do need to go clock hunting. I've gotten a few new clocks recently, but I do need to get more. I also need to design some clocks because, like I was saying, I need some customized clocks. Before long, we need clocks around here for each mod. So someday I'm going to need some of your help with that. Clocks in every mod. Like a clock that goes 0, 1, and 2 as the hours, a clock that goes 0, 1, 2, and 3 as the hours, and so on. Those will be very useful back here. I have considered opening a P.O. box someday for you all to send your broken clocks. So that could be in the future, because I feel like you all have broken clocks you could send. Someone's wondering about a video about fractals and geometric patterns in plants. Yeah, I would love to do that. That's the type of thing that I don't want to like half do and just like find a plant that kind of looks like it and not get that good footage of it. So I might need to like work with a botanist or something like that, or at least be in a really cool botanical garden, so that I have like enough cool examples of different geometry in plants. But I definitely am interested in that. I love plants. They're cool. And I do actually have some connections that maybe can get me into some botanical gardens around here to film. We'll see. I need to make more connections around town here, because there are botanical gardens. There's got to be some clock shops and stuff like that. At least I've made alliances with my neighbors. I was worried they all hated me, but they don't. They think the videos are cool. And yeah, the Romanesco broccoli is a good example of a fractal-esque. And I'm saying fractal-esque because there's a scale at which it stops doing that. But I mean, we don't really know for sure about the like, oh, quarks are, you can't go smaller than that in this way or whatever. So we don't really know what happens when you zoom in. But I mean, like, even just on the plant level, it loses the exact fractal shape a few dimensions in if you zoom into the broccoli. But it's fractal-esque in that there's a few iterations of these cool spikes, things on things. So that's super cool. I don't think I've ever eaten it, actually. I've seen it a few times. Does it taste good? Because, that'd be a good snack break episode. Geometry that you can eat. Now, let's see. I think I need to wrap up pretty soon because I'll be filming shortly. And I will make sure to film a lot of cool stuff in the meantime, because although my main channel episodes take a little while to edit, there will be some other stuff in the meantime. I'll do some cool shorts and stuff today also. Thank you so much to everyone who stopped by and joined, or who watches in the future. Make sure to check out all the links down here, like the Discord, the subreddit, and for extra helpful people, the Patreon I started a few days ago, which I'll be shouting out the names of the supporters in one of the bonus videos this week. And I appreciate everyone who has helped on that so far. You're all super awesome. Stay tuned for a lot more cool stuff out here if the mud doesn't take everything over. Can't really see, I haven't shown the ground much, but it's super slippery back here. Um, so, gonna have to be careful with the filming in the glass. Don't want to slip under a broken clock. Now, have a great one, everyone. I'll catch you again soon. And remember, if you want to absolutely blow your friends' minds, apparently you pick a number and add 28 to it. And now you can divide by 4. All right, take care, and I'll see you next time.